What's going on, folks? Welcome to another episode of Adventure Talk Live. So it's been a while since we've done one of these things. So whether you're tuning in, listening to this later down the road as a podcast, or if you're watching live on YouTube, welcome. This is the show where it's just kind of a live version of the podcast where sometimes it's just me chatting about stuff. Sometimes I've got a guest, but it's just kind of talking about all things adventure, whether it's hunting, camping, hiking, whatever. Today, I am joined by my good friend, Jonathan, and he is going to tell us about his recent adventure in Yellowstone. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to share my adventures and hopefully inspire other people to go live life to the fullest.
Well, you do the full living in Utah, all seasons adventure, getting out in the mountains, getting out every time you can. And I live vicariously through it. I go hunting and stuff a lot, but, you know, being a flatlander is a totally different experience.
Yeah. And I mean, we used to live in Texas and got to see you a lot more, but we decided that what was best for us is to just be in the mountains and be closer to a lot more outdoor adventures. And so today I'll just be talking about one of them. Which is our Yellowstone adventure. That this is the second time we've done it in the winter. We go up to Yellowstone, get a package where they tour us out to Old Faithful on snowmobiles, and we just stay a couple of nights in West Yellowstone, and it's a ton of fun. So it started last year just on a whim when Melody found this awesome deal of, it was like $500, 2-night stay in Yellowstone, 60-mile guided tour on a snowmobile out to Old Faithful, a couple of IMAX tickets, breakfast for 2 days, a steak dinner for 2. And we were like, yeah, let's go for it. And we had so much fun a year ago that we decided to do it again this year with some friends and family, and just had a big old group go up there, and it was just awesome. So it's only 4.5 hour drive up to Salt Lake. Had my brother-in-law and his wife, and then a friend and his wife, and then some friends of ours from out in Park City. There were 6 of them total from Park City, and then 4 that came out from Texas. So
that's a big
all
group.
In all,
Group.
So including my wife and I, was 12 people.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty awesome. It's nice because they only let so many snowmobiles into the park each day. So went up there. We stayed in a little hotel this time. Last time we stayed at the Three Bear Lodge, which was fantastic, absolutely amazing. They do the whole package. They've got the motel, the diner, and the snowmobile service. But this time we booked everything separately. But got up there.
Did you just,
got in a little,
to interrupt you a little bit, when you say you booked it all separately, was there a service that helped you put these things together, or you just went from, well, we need a place to stay, we need transport, we need entrance into the park? Like, did you find all those things, or were they just separate vendors but they were still kind of bundled?
So that's a little complicated, but since last year we booked through the Three Bear Lodge, and they had everything together except for entrance into the park. In fact, when we went a year ago, the government was shut down. So there was no one there to stop and, show your park pass.
Just walk in.
Too. No, yeah, you just drive your snowmobile in. There were still a few park rangers out there just checking people's passes, but not where we came in. But this time we tried to book through the same service, and I guess there was some miscommunication. They messed up our reservation, but they still took care of us, and they made some calls. They called in some favors. They got us some discounts, and we actually got it for cheaper than we got last year.
Nice.
All thanks to Three Bear Lodge, because they called the hotel, got us reservations there. They called, Two Top Snowmobile Service, something like that, and they got us the reservations there and just kind of set everything up for us. So it wasn't all one company, but it kind of was because they handled it for us.
Okay.
So that was really nice. That kind of made up for the whole miscommunication and them kind of messing up our reservation a little bit, but it was still a great time. Yeah, we stayed at a little motel or a hotel in town, and you get up first thing in the morning. They suit you out. You have a onesie, helmet, galoshes, big, thick gloves. And we paid for the upgrades on the snowmobile. So it's a 2-seater snowmobile. We paid for heated seats for the driver and the passenger, which makes all the difference. It's so fantastic. And the snowmobiles were definitely upgraded from last year because they had a lot more pep to them. They were a lot faster. But as soon as when you get into West Yellowstone, like all the streets are covered in snow. I mean, it doesn't matter how much they plow or how much salt they throw out. There is snow all over West Yellowstone. So whenever you go to the snowmobile service, even if it's 2-3 miles away from the park entrance, you just drive your snowmobile the whole way.
Oh wow!
Straight into the park. But as soon as we got in, it's so gorgeous. I mean, everybody goes to Yellowstone in the summer, and yeah, it's beautiful in the summer. But I think it's so much more beautiful in the winter time. I don't know. The snow makes it feel just so much more vast and breathtaking, and it deters a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's a big plus for me.
It's actually seeing really cool country and not just being in, I know we've joked around and called it outdoor Disneyland before, just a tourist trap. You get to see the terrain without the folks. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Exactly. So as soon as you come in through West Yellowstone, you're following a river for a little ways before you get into the good stuff. But we stopped by the river, took some pictures, and they had some what are they? They were swans, but they were calling them something different. It doesn't matter, but it was really cool to see the swans in the river, and the river is steaming because you have thermal springs running underneath there, so it keeps the river from freezing over, which is really cool and gives you a little steam, a nice aesthetic. And then you get a little further into the park and you see bison everywhere roaming around. If you're lucky, you see some coyote, hunting for voles in the snow. And there's no elk in that part of the park, but you're always hopeful. But you never see elk in part of the park in the wintertime. You may see a moose, but they've kind of migrated out of that area as well. But it's just so gorgeous, especially when you get to some waterfalls and you get to some of the geysers and everything, and just start seeing things erupting, and there's so much more steam because it's in the wintertime. I just feel like it makes everything seem a little grander, a little bit more big. And
I feel like we all have these iconic views, mostly of Old Faithful, but you think of all these geysers just like spouting off into the air. I bet you with the steam, that probably looks 10 times cooler.
Oh yeah. And Old Faithful is not even my favorite part of the trip. It's cool, and it's your
it's the one people know, I think.
Destination. Yeah, exactly. But you make lots of stops, and they say it's 60 miles, but in reality, I think we went a total of like 100 miles that day. So you really get your money's worth. The guides really take care of you. They do it every single day, so they know what spots to go to and when you're going to get the best views. But we stopped at some waterfalls, got some group pictures, just took in all the sights. Even though there's hundreds and hundreds of bison that you see, every single one is so cool, and you want to slow down and take pictures on every single one, even though it's like it's like a big furry cow with horns. It's just a lot more furry, but it's just really cool to see. And when you get to Old Faithful, they usually get you out there right before it erupts. You get out there, you pack a sack lunch or something and start eating, waiting for it to erupt. And I don't know. Some people don't think it's that cool. They say it's kind of anticlimactic, but I do love seeing Old Faithful erupt. And with less people, it's just way more enjoyable because you're right there at the front, sitting on one of the little benches, and you can feel and just hear the ground shaking just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. But you can just feel the power of the geyser about to set off.
Wow.
And then it just starts bubbling up and finally just erupting in a huge spray, steam everywhere, and it just makes for a beautiful moment to really take in. And what I liked this time is, since we had already seen it, I could just be fully in the moment and really just take it in and look over at the friends and family and see their faces and see how, astonished they are to see this amazing natural wonder. It really makes the trip worth it when you can enjoy it with friends and family.
Meaning,
and then
you weren't spending your time taking photos or asking people about it. You were just kind of sitting back, enjoying it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That was nice this time, because obviously the first time you see it, you want to get photos. Sure. But I feel like this trip, I had a lot less photos this time. Mainly because I was driving the snowmobile more, because that was a lot of fun. But also, I'd already seen it. So this time I was just trying to be in the moment and trying to make it that much more special with my wife, which was awesome. I mean, you trade off at the stops, like she'll drive and then you can take in the scenery. And then next stop you switch off again, you drive and they can take in the scenery. And it's really incredible. You never get tired of the views, and you never know what's going to be around the next bend. Maybe you'll be driving along the river for a while and you'll hit a bend and there's a waterfall, and then you're out in the open, but you can see in the distance, you can see 6 or 7 different geysers because there's steam coming up from all these different areas. And then you make a stop and you see the paint pots, which is like this giant mud pit that's just bubbling and burping up mud constantly. And they have steam pits that are just letting out a massive amount of steam constantly. Or this, I can't remember what the geyser is called, but it's a relatively small one, and it fills all the way up and erupts a little bit, kind of small, and then it completely empties. Everything completely drains out, and then comes back. And this all happens within, a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and just constantly doing that. And it's so cool to see. And then you see some bison off in the distance, or a coyote, or if you're lucky, you get to see some wolves roaming around. But they're so rare, even though they've made a comeback in Yellowstone.
They all moved over to Idaho to eat all the elk.
Yeah, I would not be surprised about that at all.
Man, and that's so cool too, that there's even that diversity in the geysers. So I went to Yellowstone when I was like a little kid, where it's just like, oh yeah, cool, like water shooting out of the ground, like that's cool. But I didn't really have the appreciation for just the idea that there are some that are ginormous and massively predictable, like Old Faithful, and then there's some that are just kind of gurgling, bubbling mud pits, and just all kinds of different just geological formations with their own patterns and colors. And I think that's really cool. And that's the sort of thing that as a kid, I had no appreciation for it. But now just like the idea that all that stuff is just going on, whether you're there or not, there's no plumbing. It just happens, and it's all on its own schedule. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like we can really take that for granted. And like you said, especially as a kid, you don't realize the wonderment of it all. And I feel like even though I had seen it before, my appreciation for it wasn't lessened any. Seeing it, this is my second time in the winter, third time through Yellowstone. But it's really awesome to be able to appreciate all of that and be able to live so close to it that it's a weekend trip. We just drive 4.5 hours up there and boom, you're in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Or, the Tetons are close as well, but you can't drive through Teton Park to get up to Yellowstone in the wintertime.
Because it's all closed from snow?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They get so much snow. There's, so on the geysers, there's some others that are just pristine, crystal clear, and this like turquoise blue, and it just looks so refreshing and inviting, but it will boil the meat off of your bones. In fact, some of the pools that look the most inviting, I'm pretty sure there's been several people that have jumped in and died relatively quickly because it's so hot. Yeah, so definitely nothing to play with, but very nice to appreciate from a distance.
And I just remember there being lots of different colors, and I remember some of that being related to minerals in the soil, but wasn't some of that related to like different bacteria and stuff as well? Like there were some that like there were rare bacteria that could survive at these like crazy high, like hyper boiling temperatures.
Yeah, so are they called the rainbow pools or something?
Yeah.
There's certain pools where you have green, blue, orange, red, yellow, like all in the same pool from different minerals, bacteria, just this crazy environment. And yeah, bacteria that can withstand very high temperatures. And another reason they don't want you touching the water, even if it can't, boil the skin off your bones, is they don't want you affecting the bacteria, the ecosystem in that pool,
because it's a very isolated culture.
Yeah, exactly. Any other small bacteria can just completely throw it off and just ruin the experience for the next person.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, snowmobiling out there, because have you ever owned a motorcycle? Like, have you ever been into the motorcycling and jet skiing and snowboard, or is it that's just the way to get out there for you?
That's,
I guess let me refine my question a little bit more.
Yeah.
Are you really into like that sort of power sport stuff, and that's what brought you out there, or it was just a way to see Yellowstone out of a vehicle at a fast pace?
I'm not really into power sports, but I did really appreciate the snowmobiles, especially with how powerful the ones we were riding were. I mean, you're not supposed to go over 35 in the park, but I'm pretty sure everybody was pushing that quite a bit.
Yeah, I bet.
You lag behind a little bit, and then you hit the gas to catch up to the guide and just kind of see how fast you can get. And it's a ton of fun, but yeah, for me, it is just kind of a way to get out and see the park and see a lot of the park. And there are other ways to do it. They have services of like cross country skiing, and it's crazy because you'll get like 30 miles in, you're close to Old Faithful, or 15, 20 miles in where there's nothing. And then all of a sudden you see this cross country skier that's just like, hoofing it up this hill, just trying to see as much of the park as possible. And I'm just like,
the hardest way possible.
Yeah, that just looks exhausting. I would definitely do it, but you're definitely not going to see as much of the park.
Sure.
And they have like, I would much rather take the snowmobiles than some of the other forms of transportation they have in the park. Like they have school buses with gigantic tires on. Yeah. It's this outfitted school bus that one of the friends that came with us, John, he said it was like $80,000 to outfit one of the, like a short bus size school bus. Like $80,000 to outfit that thing to be able to drive over the snow like that, because the tires are massive. But they just, they drive around, they let you off to go take a look, but you're just sitting in a bus the whole time.
Huh.
And then they also have these.
Just when you describe that, it just sounds like, I guess it's kind of more of a high-tech overlanding sort of thing. But when I just imagine like a short bus with giant tires, I'm like, that sounds like the most East Texas thing I've ever heard of.
They also have these other track buses type things. Like, just imagine like an Airstream trailer that you've outfitted to be a vehicle with giant tracks on either side.
Okay.
And that's like the best way I can describe it. And then they'll take people through the park in those, which just, I don't know, I don't feel like you're getting the full experience in a bus or one of these, other vehicles that's completely enclosed. You're not really taking in the beautiful, massive, open blue sky, or you're not able to really appreciate the bison that are right there. Like just a little bit ago,
Yeah.
Before we started, I showed you a picture of a bison and I posted it to Instagram, and it was like right there next to the snowmobile. I mean, maybe 10 foot away.
Goodness.
Right there next to us. And the bison in the park really like to stay on the packed trail. You don't get to just tear off and go wherever you want in the park. You have to stay on the groomed roads that they have, which is, still snow. It's just packed snow.
Yeah.
But the bison like to stay on the snow or the packed road because it's so much easier for them to walk. So
just because they don't sink in?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. It's just easier for them to get around, get to the next patch of grass that's, half mile down the road, whatever. And so several times, 6 or 7 times, they're right there, and we have to slow down to 5-10 miles an hour right next to them, just slow our roll and hope that they don't charge us and, turn Whoa. And come after us, because they are big. They're so big.
Well, so now awesome that you've had these experiences, like arm's reach from these massive animals, when you hear these stories like this summer when, what was it, a little girl got flipped by one of the bison out there? I feel like it happens almost every year that somebody gets too close and one of the bison is just like, back off, sister. What's your perspective on that now that you've actually been that close?
So it's definitely a different animal. Like I said, I've been in summer and winter, and like winter, you are not getting off your snowmobile when they're right there. And when you're going around them, you're ready to just hit the throttle and get going. And they're fast too. They run at like 35 miles an hour,
oh, wow.
30, 35, something like that. Even in the snow, they're just hauling. But in the summertime, when these people get charged and gored, I think it's just people being stupid. They're getting out of the cars. They're trying to get a picture right there with it. And, they are pushing the boundaries of these animals. And, for the most part, they're pretty chill, because they deal with it all the time, but they have their limits. They eventually, there's not a lot of warning. It's just, you're too close, and they can run 35 miles per hour. If they don't want you there, you're getting gored.
They're going to let you know.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, I bet you just like the feeling of pulling right up next to those is so cool. Because the only bison I've seen up close was in Caprock Canyon, Texas. And I feel like, technically it's bison. It's the same species, but they just looked hot and tired and small. Like not even comparable to what you've got up there.
Yeah, they definitely do not look small here. Like I imagine the ones in Texas, which I've seen some in Texas, and they are pretty small. It's like they're probably the size of the cabs here.
Yeah.
A couple of the other really cool parts of the trip was when we first got in the park. I almost forgot. There was an eagle. I can't remember, like flying with us or flying against us, just right overhead. Saw this bald eagle flying over us, and then there was one of the friends missed seeing that eagle the first time. And then there were another time where there were 2 eagles flying the opposite direction of us over the river, just gliding along, and everybody's pointing and shouting and all excited and everything. And she missed that one as well.
No.
And she was so frustrated. I'm like, all right, I'm not saying you missed your chance, but that's the only time I've ever seen a bald eagle. I'm
and you
pretty
got
sure
two
you missed your
chances.
chance. Yeah, well, yeah, technically 3 because there were 2 eagles on the second one. And just ridiculous luck. There was one other time on the way back from Old Faithful where our guide just, pun intended, eagle eye, sees this guy just hanging out on a branch, and he pulls us all over, and we're kind of wondering what the heck is going on because there's not really anything. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful view, but there was no like focal point. We were at like a low spot of the river, and he just stops, and then he points it out, and there's this massive bald eagle just chilling on a branch. And so everybody got their pictures. The friend got to see the bald eagle finally after like everybody pointed it out to her. And it was just a really cool moment. I mean, to see 4 bald eagles in a day, that was pretty awesome.
So that you had that whole group of, what was it, 14 people or whatever? That whole group was on snowmobiles like in one big pack the whole time?
So there were 12 in our group, and it was 2 to a snowmobile, so 6 snowmobiles in our group. And then I think we had 2 or 3 more snowmobiles in our group and the guide. So there were about 10 snowmobiles total.
Okay.
And that's usually how many they have in a group for the guide to kind of keep track of. Yeah. But usually 2 people per snowmobile.
So, it sounds like versus those other vehicles you talked about, that's the way you would recommend doing it. Does anybody ride horseback out there, or is the snow just way too deep for that?
I would think it would be way too deep. I haven't seen anything. That's not to say there isn't, but if you're going to do horseback riding in the wintertime, you're probably going to want to go to southern Utah for that rather than Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the snow is going to be just way too deep.
Well, and something that you kind of mentioned earlier and that we've talked about is just the beauty of seeing this when it's not super crowded, and just kind of going at your own pace with a smaller group. I mean, 10 snowmobiles sounds like a lot, but still way less people than are normally in any given spot there. Does any part of talking about this, does it kind of make you nervous that, well, maybe so many people will start getting into this and seeing it that way that it'll further corrupt it and ruin it?
On this, luckily, no. I mean, that fear is there, and that fear of people finding out that this area is awesome, and more people will come through. But they only let like 250 snowmobiles into Yellowstone a day.
Okay.
So
it's capped.
You've got a max capacity.
Okay.
Now you can, excuse me, you can go to other areas and you can rent snowmobiles to ride outside the park. But the bread and butter for most of these snowmobile companies is to do this guided tour through Yellowstone. And, as long as they have that limit, keeping people, too many people from coming in and kind of ruining the park, I think it'll be all right.
Well, that's generally good that it's capped. I mean, I could see that potentially making the prices of this sort of thing skyrocket in the future, but it keeps it from being just overpressured. I tend to see kind of the same thing in hunting. Like if you talk about, you'll hear people be like, well, there's not a lot of good hunting in this area. You'd be like, oh yeah, sure there is. And they're like, yeah, show me. And you're like, maybe don't want to give up these spots.
Like, you know what? You're right. There isn't good hunting.
But I think it's cool to be able to share that kind of stuff without fear of people equals ruining it.
Yeah. And it was really, really cool to share that with friends that, some of them were from Texas, some of them were from California, and nobody had done it before, so it was really cool to share that with them and show them a good time. I hope that the price doesn't go up in the future because they're making good money. You're getting a heck of a deal. I mean, $500 for 2 people to go on a quick weekend getaway is a damn good deal when that includes,
yeah, it is.
You're out there on the snowmobile for 8 hours, give or take, depending on your guide, but you are limited by daylight. But you're out there and they're trying to pack in as much fun as possible. And it kind of depends on the group how much you're going to be able to pack in. If everybody stays together and you don't have people like lagging behind and rubber banding back, or yo-yoing back and forth, as long as the guide can see you and you keep up like 35 miles per hour, the speed limit, the more stuff you're going to get to see.
Yeah.
And so the more bang for the buck you're going to get. But $500 for a couple nights, lodging. In fact, I think we even paid less this time for the package. I think it was like $450.
Dang.
For 2 people to spend a couple of nights, snowmobile package. And then, obviously West Yellowstone's really charming, small town. Most of the shops are closed, but the ones that you can find open, you've just got good small town people that are just sweet as can be, just got that small town charming feel.
Man, that's awesome. Well, was there any like specialty equipment or anything that you needed to have to do this? I mean, it sounds like obviously the snowmobiles are rented. Clothing? It sounded like, were y'all just bundled up in ski clothes, or was some of that, did they have a recommend list, or how did that work?
Well, I knew from last time what to wear because last time I did get a little bit chilly. But they give you a helmet, like a motorcycle helmet with a drop down face mask. Mm-hmm. They give you like a disposable balaclava to put on under that. I definitely recommend having like an additional gaiter or buff, neck buff, on for that. They fit you out in like a super heavy duty onesie, and then they give you some insulated boots, some insulated gloves.
They provide all of that.
They provide all of that. That's included in the price of the rentals.
That's cool.
And then all the snowmobiles now have heated handlebars for the driver and throttle. So, I know it's just your thumb on the throttle, but that's heated as well. And then heated handlebars for the passenger. And that comes like standard on all of them. The upgrades are like just heated seats, which are pretty nice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. That last year we didn't have that. This year we did, and that made a pretty big difference. I had a couple of layers of pants on under that. I had a long john shirt, another shirt on over that, my puff, and my shell on under the onesie. And that way, while I was driving, I was perfectly content.
Yeah.
I wasn't cold. I wasn't too hot. Wind's blowing against you. So you were like the perfect temperature. The only problem with that is as soon as you stop to go look at these geysers and you get off and start walking, you just immediately start burning up.
Everybody's like, let's go walk around by the boiling water.
Yeah. So it's a give and take. I mean, usually when we stopped, I would just unzip everything, open it up, and just let some heat out.
Man, that's cool.
But I'd rather be warm while we're driving content while we're driving and a little bit warm when we're walking around rather than cold.
Yeah, especially with a 35 plus wind the entire time. Like if you get cold, you probably just don't warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, any other, I guess, managing expectations, like any other things that you had in mind that either was a surprise to the negative or to the positive, something that you thought you were going to see but didn't get to, or something that was just way beyond your expectations? How did it differ than kind of your thoughts going in?
I mean, obviously, expect to see bison. That's like guaranteed. Uh, I wish we saw some other animals. But again, seeing the eagles was pretty awesome, and I didn't expect that at all. So that was definitely a positive. Negatives. I mean, there's not a lot of negatives to it. It's just an awesome. It's it's little stuff like it's a small town in the middle of winter. There's not a lot of shops open, or the shops that are open close early.
Yeah.
Like there's not that much business coming through the town in the winter. It's a summer town. They do all their business in the summer when people are just flying through Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And so it's it's kind of hard to find a lot of different places to eat, whatever, but it's not the biggest let me down. I kind of like the feel of a slower small town than the hustle and bustle when it's middle of summer.
Yeah. Well, and in terms of timing, so is this something that you can do pretty much all winter, or are there certain times for either weather concerns or patterning wildlife? Are there certain times that are better than others, or it's just kind of they're doing this every day?
It's kind of hard to plan the perfect time as far as weather goes. Like obviously you have to wait until it's well into winter and you have a good base layer of snow. And I don't know exactly when that happens in Yellowstone. It just kind of depends on each season. Sometimes you're getting a ton of snow starting October, and then like by December you probably have plenty of snow up there. And then other times maybe you don't get enough snow till like mid-January or the beginning of February before you have a good base layer. It just it really depends.
Gotcha. Well, so you've done this. You did it last year. You went back, did it again. Are you looking at doing it for a third time? Or two's enough?
We're probably done for a while with that. And it's not because it's not incredible and we wouldn't want to do it again. It's because we have so many other things we want to do. Like we want to go back up to Glacier in Montana and see that, and maybe take a snowboarding trip up there or a fly fishing trip up in Montana. I love the Tetons. I kind of like the Tetons more than I like Yellowstone, but you do get a lot of tourists there as well. But there's a lot of good hiking, and you can attest to that. The good hiking and the crap ton of mosquitoes
Seriously.
in the Teton Mountains.
Well, we need to go back up there and knock out that loop. After we got all the way up to Hurricane Pass and then turned back, like ever since then, I just, that trip was so much fun and those mountains were beautiful. And I remember, when we were kind of slowly plodding along and then we had those two ultralight guys just come flying by us. And then I'm like, they're taking it pretty hardcore. I mean, maybe I could step it up a little bit.
Yeah, you look at those guys and then you look down at your belly and you look at those guys and you're like, whatever, I don't even care. Whatever.
That's funny.
If we can just convince Mike to do his bachelor trip for the Teton Loop instead of the South.
There we go. Yeah, definitely a better place to be in the summer for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well,
but
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but there are definitely some other spots we want to hit up rather than hit Yellowstone again. Like I said, Glacier is, in my opinion, definitely more beautiful than Yellowstone. I'd like to get back up. Oh, dropped the mic. I'd like to get back up to Banff National Park again, because that is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Lake Tahoe, I wouldn't mind going and seeing that again. Southern Utah. In fact, actually, we're going to Moab this weekend.
Oh,
We're going to
wow.
Arches. It was a last minute deal. Our friends called us up and were like, hey, we're looking at getting an Airbnb in Southern Utah. What do y'all think? So we looked up, found a place near Moab, and just went ahead and booked it for a couple of nights. So we'll go down there. We'll go see Arches for a little bit, which we've been down there once, and it's incredible. It's a little bit warmer than it is here in Salt Lake right now. Like the temps will probably be in the 50s down there, where
Hey,
it's
that's
like
perfect, though.
right, exactly, where it's like 20s to 30s around Salt Lake right now. So it'll be a nice break, a little sunnier. We'll have a nice quick adventure down there, and that's one of the great things about living in the mountains is just like that's every weekend you can just have a quick getaway within a few hours. Like I think Moab's just below 4 hours drive, which is not that bad.
Yeah.
Get out of work a little bit early Friday, come back at a reasonable time on Sunday, and just have another adventure under your belt. And I know we definitely want to get up to the Northwest pretty soon. Like we just saw flights to Seattle for like $100.
Wow.
And so we were kind of juggling back and forth. Like, do we go up to Seattle, get some seafood, drink some wine, see what it's about up there? But I think we've kind of decided not to because it's just so dreary and rainy and cold up there right now. We need somewhere with a little more sun.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why we're opting for Southern Utah.
Well, lots of sun there.
Right. Yeah, lots of adventure there too.
Yeah, man.
There's still several parts of Utah we haven't seen. Like I don't think we've been to Capitol Reef. We haven't been to Grand Staircase. And a few other spots. I mean, we've knocked down quite a bit on our list, but there's still more to explore in Utah.
Dang, that's so cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your Yellowstone adventure. I mean, I've never even been on a snowmobile, and I have not been to Yellowstone since I was a little kid. So just like hearing this, it opens my mind up to like, how could I pull this off? When can I get away? Maybe I don't have to go to SHOT Show next year, and I can actually go out and adventure a little bit. So super cool to hear it.
And just consider that, like, if you took a snowmobile out for half a day, just rented it and took it out to, God knows where, it'd be like $280. So you less than double that, and you get your hotel stay and a guided tour out to, an amazing national park.
So between the snowmobile and the lodging, basically from then on, Yellowstone and the tour are free.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, sure.
If you were to add it up separately, I mean, but maybe not. Maybe I totally missed the point you were making.
Just a good deal overall.
Well, that's awesome. Any other closing thoughts about this?
Yeah, just like I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in Utah, but if your work has you moving around or if you have different opportunities, do it. Just seize the moment. When in Rome, do it as the Romans do, and just find all the adventures that are near you while you can. And if you don't live near them, go find them. That's
great advice. I mean, that's no matter where you live, like there's something to do. Get out and take it. Yeah, you can always find cheap flights. I mean, we the whole Seattle trip, we were looking at using like our credit card points for, like, we were going to be able to pay for the flights and a rental car with just credit card points. Oh wow!
And, so I mean, like out of DFW, y'all have cheap flights all the time. In fact, like let me think. y'all just had a deal to Dublin, Ireland for $530 around there, give or take. I'm pretty sure y'all had some
Well,
deals to
damn, I could be drinking
Cancun.
Guinness right now.
Yeah,
Not a
seriously.
Shiner.
I mean, yeah, right. That might still be going on, you know. Like, just keep an eye out on flights and pack light. You don't need a ton of material things to go have an adventure. Just keep an eye out for a cool place. Fly out there and just rough it, or do whatever it is that makes you happy. Just go find the adventure.
That's awesome. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for sharing your story. I know I'm super excited and hyped up about this, and I hope everybody listening is too, because it's pretty cool stuff, man. So thank you again. And to everybody listening,
Absolutely.
stay safe, be free, never stop seeking adventure.